Okay, it's 11 o'clock now. We will get started. My name is Linda Corstjens from Flanders Make, and I'm very happy to welcome you here at this webinar about cybersecurity for Industry 4.0. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction of what we have on our agenda today. I see that someone else has started sharing their presentations. I don't have much to share, but I still want you to have a look at it for the agenda later on. So welcome everybody at our Cybersecurity 4.0 for Industry 4.0 webinar. At Flanders Make, we are focusing on research. We are a research institute, as you all know, focusing on technological innovations together with companies, small and large ones on a local and European level. We work together with all those companies to provide the technologies for the vehicles, machines, and factory environments for the future. Cybersecurity is very important in these smart interconnected products and production environments we are working on together. And we are all way more vulnerable than we think. Even at Flanders Make, we recently had some issues with people clicking in emails that didn't look so suspicious, but were suspicious. We've all read about it in the media about big companies getting attacked. Some of them are among us today. At Flanders Make, we are not specializing in this subject, but we do use it in our projects, which will be one of the subjects later on. But today we have invited the specialists from PwC and LSEC, who are willing to share their vision on how you can improve cybersecurity at your company or your organization as from now. I'm going to have a quick look at the agenda with you, and then we get started. So we have 1 hour in front of us, and we will start with Vito from PwC and Ulrich from LSEC, who will share their experiences from attacks within office environments. That's the main subject for Vito, and machine park environments. That's the main subject for Ulrich. So often it starts at the office and it spreads over the whole company. So that's why we have a combined presentation, having two speakers who will explain to you how you can deal with this. Then afterwards, we have Steven Kauffmann, my colleague, a project manager at Flanders Make, who will explain the importance that we saw in cybersecurity in our I3OT project. So you get some experience of Flanders Make as well. And then afterwards, we have a part that's more or less, well, mainly important for the SMEs among you. There are support measures, financial support measures that are available in Flanders through VLAIO and ERDF for cybersecurity steps to be taken by Flemish SMEs. So there it will be Stef from PwC and Ulrich from LSEC, who will give you a brief explanation about that. It's about the VLAIO contract ondernemerschap. They are two of the service suppliers who are working in that context. After that, we have a brief Q&A, but if you have any questions now, please don't hesitate and ask them through the chat, and we will try to answer them as quick as possible. And if you don't get an answer yet, you can do it at the end. So now I will give the word to Vito.
Thank you, Linda. I will start also sharing a different presentation.
Yes, that would be good.
Okay, so you should see the other presentation now. Okay, Thank you very much, Linda, for handing over to me. I hope everything is fine technically and that you see the presentation. I had a few issues before and I apologize for that. It was me trying to load the presentation into Teams and it came before up. Thanks for the great opportunity you gave us, you gave me for talking today and talk about this very important topic for us, which is indeed cybersecurity for the industrial environment. My goal today will be bringing you a little bit of the real life experience, bringing you a little bit of my eyes when I see incident happening in IT and OT environment, and also Ulrich will be here to comment more about that side. But a quick presentation about myself, and then I leave also Ulrich presenting a bit more. My name is Vito, Italian, original Italian, and working in Brussels, in Belgium for PwC. I take care of incident and threat management. It means that we have a team that is specialized in doing assessments, penetration tests, and ethical hacking. So doing everything related to the preparation for an incident. And another team that helps during incident, the incident response team that helps companies, our customers, during incidents when something happens. And we do it by helping during the incident, but also by doing proactive threat hunting and this type of activities where we do investigate about possible threats. Ulrich.
Hey, good morning. Hi, Vito. Thanks for handing over. And hello to everybody again. I think we've seen each other maybe in a couple of events over the last couple of days, but still interesting to see many of you appearing here. So indeed, my name is Ulrich Seldeslachts. I'm from an association of IT security companies called LSEC, which has been around for about just over 2 decades, spin-off of the University of Leuven. Just over a decade ago, or even 15 years ago, we started from cybersecurity land, also investigating the challenges in relation to industrial environments. At the time, industrial control systems, legacy environments. Some of the people here in the room even contacted us at that point in time, asking us, okay, we are an industrial company, we are making products, we are exporting them to many different places around the world. How can we protect our product better from cybersecurity? And it's actually good to see, even 15 years later, that we're still talking about the same topics. It's also a bit unfortunate, but the good thing is that things have improved. So maybe a short couple of words on some of the logos that you can see here and the activities that we do. So in the first place, we work together with Flanders Make in different projects. One project is called Trinity, where we support basically manufacturing companies, but also innovative technology companies in utilizing cybersecurity in essence. And our role there is investigating, for instance, the cybersecurity for robotics, but we're also taking it from a bit more and a wider step. We'll talk about that later on. Another way is that we have different types of activities on the European level, where we are focusing towards what the future is going to look like, and especially when it comes to Industry 4.0. So that's something that I'll be sharing as well with you. We have some feet on the ground. That's done through the TRIV activities and the ASCO activities, of course, where we work even with some of the companies here in the room today, helping them in making that transition, digital transition, under the 3IF mark, and looking from their side into what cybersecurity challenges are. And our relation to PwC, we are a membership organization, a bit similar to Flanders Make, but our focus is really about cybersecurity companies. And PwC, we are honored to have them as one of our original members, still there today. So Vito, back to you.
Yes, indeed, Ulrich. We know each other since a long time, thanks to this collaboration and this association into LSEC that we have at PwC. It has been very fruitful and very pleasant across the years. I will go ahead and I want to talk to you today about the crime type of organization that are behind cyber attacks. And the idea is not to go too much back in time, but to give you a little bit of overview of what happened across the years. While a few years ago, probably 10 or more, when I was still young, hacking was something that individuals were doing on their own. No, there were people with very high technical skills that were capable of great, good stuff, and they were hacking on their own. Today, things changed. Today, hackers are organized in criminal rings, organized crime rings, and they are not only hackers, but they are really criminals that are behind a speculation, behind a capitalization on hacking attacks. So the actors behind, we also have nation states that are attacking utilities and other type of activities, but in general, there is a very wide number of campaigns that are run by organizations that are after money, after a lucrative type of activities. And if I go back in time, very quickly, everybody knows the concept of ransomware today. I'm not going to explain it. This concept is pretty known, no? Asking money to give your data back, basically encrypting your data. Ransomware are nothing new. They are pretty on the wave since 2 years, but they are nothing new. And the first ransomware is dated 1989, and basically it's from the 90s, and was shared around with a floppy disk. The floppy disk you see here, and was using a social engineering pretext because this ransomware was shared to all the participants of a specific security conference, a health security conference, and the pretext of the disk you see here was bringing you more information about ADS. Yes. Indeed. I heard somebody, but basically that was the first form of ransomware, and today ransomware evolved. There is no need anymore today to be smart, to be a developer, to build up a very complex attack. The access to malware platforms are very easy in the dark web, the hidden side of the internet, the anonymous side of the internet. It's possible to find dedicated services where you can basically rent all the equipment. You can acquire all the equipment you want to run a ransomware campaign, to run an attack, and to try to speculate to gain money out of it. And these things became pretty popular. The name malware as a service, since everything today is a service, no, malware as a service are services that are really pretty successful on the dark web, where you can go and using Bitcoins or other type of anonymous type of payments, you can get access to the entire toolset. And things like this is WannaCry from a few years ago. Everybody remembers that screen because it appeared everywhere. That was the first example when a ransomware, which was targeted to users, to consumer basically, spread around and also landed on systems that were in production, went around basically uncontrolled. The main difference between a WannaCry type of attack of a few years ago, meaning encrypting the photos and the documents you have on your PC, and Ryuk, that has been pretty popular, unfortunately, in Belgium for the recent year and a half, is that now the type of attacks that the hackers are shifting from, let's say, hackers to consumers. So basically, they're shifting from targeting your pictures and your hard drives, your personal data on a laptop. They're shifting to business. It takes more time to attack a company, but the gain, the financial gain you can get out of this attack, it's probably higher. So it's not anymore spreading your ransomware through a campaign and hoping that you encrypt the pictures of the travel from whatever guy and then get $300 to recover them. But it's more about infecting systems which are even in production, why not? And servers that are basically powering the IT or the OT of a company, and asking way more expensive ransom. In Belgium, I've seen cases of ransomware requests for 20K per server. And this is a bit of a global statistic, but the largest confirmed payment was 2,000 Bitcoins. And you know the value of a Bitcoin, it's a ransom request of 34 million, wasn't in Belgium. I've seen even 2-3 millions in Belgium asked for a ransom for recovering systems. So the game shifted. It takes a lot more time to attack a company, but when you gain money out of this attack, when you capitalize on this attack, hackers are making way more money out of it. And there is this shift. I bring three 3 quick cases. I already mentioned that before. The point here is very simple. Sometimes when a hacker is attacking a company and lands on the IT, it doesn't have the exact perception when it spreads around, when lateral moves, where it's spreading, where it's going. You know, WannaCry, by pure chances or by uncontrolled non-contained infection, landed on OT systems. The picture you see there, we saw that in many systems and display, the ransom request of WannaCry was appearing there. Today, when they attack a company, they attack the domain controller, they attack the central IT, and they try on purpose to spread over the OT. Perhaps they will not reach the real automation environment, perhaps the automation environment, but this Ulrich will be a little bit more detailed there about the layers you have in OT. They will not reach the real automation, but they will reach maybe your MES, maybe your ERP system, and this will anyhow stop production. I have here 3 different cases. Company A, for example, after a ransomware attack that landed in IT, wasn't the target on OT, but landed in IT. Again, very briefly, when I say IT, I talk about information technology systems, the one that are powering your office work. When I say OT, it's about the operational technology. I mean, the network which is behind the production environment, the shop floor of your systems. Again, company A, after the attack, had no ERP system available, was disconnected. The MES, the manufacturing and system, was down because the servers were impacted and the MES went down. There was no file share, and there was no possibility to fetch the programs to load the PLC and to keep producing. So even if the OT environment was directly impacted, the impact of the entire attack spread over the OT environment as well. Company B, for example, this is a very interesting case for companies that are doing a lot of acquisitions. The IT headquarters in Belgium was impacted via the VPN. Actually, the attack happened in one branch, acquired branch, remote branch in another country. The OT went down, the production went down in this country, but the production didn't go down in Belgium, but the IT environment was anyhow impacted. So the problem of connecting different type of systems or different type of entities with different level of maturity sometimes becomes a spread, allows the spread of attacks. And finally, company C. In company C, there was a direct impact in OT. Some of the OT systems running Windows CE terminals and Windows XP in production were infected because those systems were registered to the domain controller, and the hacker probably didn't even realize that it was infected systems that were in production environment. I wouldn't bet that he knew what it was infected. It just infected everywhere, and this bring it down basically the production. So what is the problem behind the discussion, or behind what is in common behind these 3 cases that I just mentioned? The fact that there is not enough segregation between the production environment, the OT, and the entire IT stack. And it's happening more and more, even if companies are today understanding that, and from a network perspective, they're starting introducing VLANs, they're starting introducing firewalls between the environment. From a logic point of view and service point of view, sometimes things are shared. And I here in this picture, to make it very simple, high level, without going into the details of an OT environment and different layers you have, on the left side, you have the blue IT environment where you have your domain controller, your ERP, your CRM, Power BI, whatever you are running. And on the right side, you have in red your production. And I would say your production environment starts from level 4 with the MES systems. You might have your connected device from the industrial IoT, the Industry 4.0, that they have to go to the internet. But basically, the red lines here are showing you, the red lines are not there to tell you that this shouldn't exist, but are showing you the lines which are more dangerous. The fact that some systems in the OT are connected to the same domain, to the same Active Directory, which is in IT, that might be a serious reason, and it's basically a lack of segregation from a logic point of view in terms of duties, in terms of roles, because the roles you have in the Active Directory are the same roles you have at the OT level. And trust me, when hackers are attacking your IT, the first thing they do privilege escalation. They try to take over, and it's almost all the time successful. They try to take over your domain controller and have domain admin rights. When they have domain admin rights, they have access to databases and all the rest. So talking about segregation and all the rest, here is the problem. This is what I've seen by experience during these 2-3 years going around and doing incident response in manufacturing environment. But the question here is how to deal with all that. Ulrich.
Yes, thank you very much, Vito. Let me basically quickly take over here as well. Might just be more convenient. Indeed. Before I start with this particular question, there was one interesting point that you mentioned, Vito, and I think it's basically had to do with the fact that you have explained many of the experiences from traditional systems, ERP, MES, but how many cases have you seen by now where there's also Industry 4 types of environments being connected and impacted?
In Belgium, no, I have to be totally clear and transparent, and that's great. There are cases which are around the world. There are cases that are pretty known, especially on connected systems. But in Belgium, at the moment, what is very typical is a attack of the IT, domain controller escalation, and spread over the OT.
Yeah, and I think it's quite normal, because in essence, what we see is that many companies are still trying to make this digital transformation. And before I get into this, what really is to do about this? Well, there's many different approaches, but there's only a couple of approaches where we know from experience that do make sense and that are trying to take this from a holistic perspective. In the first place, a recommendation to consider is basically an attack methodology from a threat model, and it's called STRIDE. This model has been around for many years. It's coming actually also from the IT world, but can also be perfectly used in an OT environment or in the combination of OT and IT. And what it does is basically it starts to put you in the minds of what an attacker would be doing. So how can you start thinking about attacking a system by using these types of mechanisms, spoofing, tampering, using things like denial of service. That's usually what an attacker would start doing and would considering. And so taking the perspective from an attacker is usually what we will start doing as well. It's basically taking it from an outside-in perspective. What we can also do, and these are a couple of examples that we have from the trenches. We have basically seen many different cases, still see them today, also like Vito has been showing. What is it that we see and how to deal with it? Well, to start with is try to get a composed and a detailed overview of all of your systems, your network environments, and so forth. And I put also there CPS as in cyber physical systems, because it's really the combination of both that's needed in this case. So it's not only about the OT environment, it's not only about the IT, it's also about which access control systems you might have in place, which specifically traditional security systems that are also there. Another thing then to do is to start scanning for potentially additional components, and specifically in an Industry 4 concept that's becoming quite important. Because one of the major things in an Industry 4.0 type of consideration is that we're going to digitize all of the different systems behind it. We're going to put in place different types of IoT equipment, sensors, and edge devices. And sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge to understand where all of these different connectors and systems have actually been put. And when you work together with systems integrators and different suppliers that are walking in and out in the factory floor, it's actually becoming much more hard to understand where all of these different devices are. And that's not really that unusual. It happens actually also in different IT environments, but even more so in OT environments, because you have quite a lot of large manufacturing facilities. There's many very small places where you can hide different things like IoT devices and Wi-Fi connectors and so forth. So important is also to try to get a record of this overview, because it really helps in in trying to provide a systematic overview of what's really in place and what you have. And then finally, if you're getting to a good overview of all of these different things, check for existing vulnerabilities on those different existing systems, which will help you giving a perspective on what your potential vulnerabilities are. And then will help you also in trying to understand if there's any remainders of vulnerabilities, to also get an understanding of what those could be towards the future. And again, specifically for Industry 4.0, that becomes important because you will work with many new digital types of systems where not always all of the vulnerabilities are known. When you have many legacy environments, you do know that there's vulnerabilities. Most of those vulnerabilities might have been there already for maybe a decade, but you might not have resolved them, and maybe they're simply unresolvable. That could also be the case. Another important thing here to consider is in the systematic approach is to also take a joint responsibility. It's not only you that is responsible as the manufacturing company or basically the production operator. You have to see this as a shared responsibility. Maybe that's also something to plan towards the future, is to involve your system integrator, to involve your product supplier on the way that you are building out your systems of the future. And so do take into consideration, I'll be coming back to this later on, do take into consideration when you're developing your next purchase order for your new systems that you're planning to buy, which might need to be there for the next 30 years or so. At least try to consider cybersecurity considerations of today, but also put in there what they should be doing in order to maintain and upgrade their different systems, because that's typically what we are seeing. A major difference from past systems, the thing that you see on the left here, where we try to segregate all of the different environments in terms of, for instance, field devices up to the enterprise network environment. The major difference in terms of Industry 4.0 that we see is really the convergence of all of these different systems. And that's not only happening from a presentation layer, but it's actually already happening on the floor, on the factory floor, where we see that there's migrations of different connectivities, there's migrations of data, and one piece of data acquisition platform is talking to another data presentation platform. And that's quite normal, because that's really what we have to do towards Industry 4.0. The data is becoming what's really going to be the future value of your company, and that we have to keep in mind. Also, when producing new types of devices, this is also the same type of consideration that we have to have. So how do we deal with this in this consideration that Vito was talking about when you have to do segregation? So Vito was talking about the lack of segregation. Well, there is a standard that exists in the manufacturing environment, and I think most of you are very much aware of this, a standard which is called IEC 62443. It's actually de facto industry standard, but it really demands from manufacturing companies that they segregate all of the different activities within their operations. It goes from segregating on the network level, on the different machines, and also the way that data are moving around. Now, that's an interesting philosophical and way of working, but how do you do that in an Industry 4.0 environment? Again, where, as I was mentioning, everything needs to be interconnected in a very specific manner. And especially also when you are considering using digital manufacturing environments and platforms, so utilizing the next generation of ERP, the next generation of MES, sometimes even in the cloud, it should not prevent you from doing so. So the least and the last thing that we will be saying as cybersecurity specialists is do not go into the cloud, because we also see, of course, that this is the future and it's a transformation that you have to go into. But do that with considerations of making sure that you know that there's also consequences of this, amongst other in cybersecurity space. And as I was mentioning already from the beginning, there are considerations that we are taking into account in what those future factories could actually look like. And this is really what we call pathways to the future. It's from an activity which is called Connected Factories. You can find all of these materials online, and where we have seen that there's many different ways that the manufacturing companies are moving towards the future. One of them is called autonomous smart factories, or more in line is hyper-connected factories, but we also see just data-driven companies, data-driven manufacturing companies that are looking towards how can we basically from the traditional product development that we do, how can we move towards a future whereby data is really the new economics also for us as a manufacturing companies. And when we take that into consideration, we do see that there's many different levels of maturity within those manufacturing companies. And so typically what we see is they will start from traditional spreadsheets, moving towards more integrated types of software. And I think many of the companies that are online today here in this session are companies which are much more into level 3. So where you have MES connected components, where there's ERP, where there's PLC systems all over the place. And you're considering moving towards, for instance, basically a digital manufacturing platform, and then towards the future even further, going even to real-time optimization. And some companies I know which are present here today are already experimenting with those different types of environments. Now, what's really important is that also from a cybersecurity perspective, we can make the same level and the same progress in terms of maturity. And I'll show that slide later on. We have tried to put all of these different cybersecurity mechanics in similar lines to what you can see here in terms of the different models of how you can see your company moving towards a hyper-connected factory and what you really need in terms of digital systems, where we can also position all of the different cybersecurity components on there. And taking this further towards the future, we'll be thinking about AI, about data-driven factories and so forth. And also there's answers from cybersecurity world that we can provide in that space. So cybersecurity is there to support a digital transformation towards Industry 4.0 or even Industry 5.0, and it's really there to support the digitization of your manufacturing environment. A good way to do this, and this is really a strong recommendation, I think, from all of us, is using existing mechanisms. And this is a mechanism which has been used already for many years and will continue to be used also by many, both consultants like our colleagues from PwC and system integrators, as well as from our side, where we are integrating the future new types of cybersecurity mechanisms. So it's really this basic cybersecurity framework, which has been conceived by NIST as a standard environment. And it's really identifying, protecting, detecting, responding, and then recovering as the key mechanism that you should have within your manufacturing environment to work on and to put your cybersecurity skills towards. There's different types of levels of priority that you can put against this, and there's different mechanisms that you can see, okay, how do we need to put this in place? And I'm not going to go into detail, but I'm just leaving you the reference. It's one of those derivatives of NIST. It's called NISTIR, and they have developed a specific framework for manufacturing companies that you can use as guidance here. So all of these different elements have been detailed and will provide you guidance on the different steps that you have to take and you have to consider, and you have also to report to on what you have been doing in order to get there. And taking this into consideration, taking the segregation of different elements into consideration, and also knowing that this is there also to support you in your plan towards digitization will help you do that. Vito.
Yes, indeed, it will help you, and will help you greatly, because here the point is very simple. Get there. I mean, don't try to don't get there, but if it happens and you get there, you have to be prepared and you have to be properly handling it. And it's possible. Yeah, I'm always concerned during my talks. I do have also a presentation where we will really show an attack live. I'm always concerned during my talks to give this positive message that you gave, Ulrich, and thank you for that, that there is something you can do. It's not like they are out there and they are treating us and you cannot react. You just have to passively accept. There is something you can do to prepare. There is something you can do to handle the problem. Something you can do if, in the unlucky case it happens, you can handle the entire incident. So very important. And again, you took the slides out. I'll take it over again if I can present more. Window. I'm sorry, I believe I'm still on the old slide. It's not changing. Okay, so what is next? And it's the reason why this slide is so orange is not just a case. The reason why this slide is so orange is to remind you about the attack of a few months ago against Campari, which was followed by other attacks to connected companies. By the way, don't underestimate the fact that hackers are attacking a company, taking data out of it, like email addresses or conversations with clients or suppliers of that company, and they keep following that discussion to finally attack the supplier or the contact. Or the other contact. It happened here in Belgium with some of our cases we worked, and it's something to consider. By the way, going back to our friends, what's going on now? Until now, ransomware and infections with malware have been lucrating in the fact that you need your data back and you need to have it to keep working. So they were basically leveraging on the fact that you have to get your data back to work. And in the end, people are becoming more and more aware of that, and they're using backup systems, and they are more and more ready to recover production or to recover the normal ways of working of a company by restoring backups and all the other good things, and by engaging an incident response company like us and whatever. So what is
Vito,
next now?
Can you wrap up? You only have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, I will wrap up. I have more in 2 minutes. I can pass the message on what is next. We have seen this group, Ragnar Locker, connected to the Campari attack. And basically the idea is that they are not only asking money for recovering the data, but they are also threatening, they are also taking data out of your company and leaking this data, or threatening to leaking this data over the internet. And for the case, for the Campari case, they even used social media. They contacted via social media the people that they were connected to the company, and showing them that the company was hacked. And the idea here is not only to try to do some damages in terms of production, but it's also about trying to impact the image of the company. And why the impact is so wide and why it's so important for a company, because there are also regulations that are around privacy and around other type of regulations that basically makes an attack and the noise and the public noise about an attack something that will impact the company image. And going back to regulations, Ulrich, maybe you can say something more about it.
Yes, of course, Vito, trying to find the right button here again. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So in the few minutes indeed left, it's just to indicate the fact that it's not only about protecting what you have today, it's also the fact that if you don't do it yourself, then there will be regulations like a number of the ones that are being shown here. And you also, most of you know about things like GDPR, some of you know about NIS, but even more so in the next coming months, there will be a change in the machinery directive, which will indicate how companies like yourselves, manufacturing companies, but also manufacturing companies producing machines will be impacted with cybersecurity. There's the Radio Communications Act. And then, as I promised you, the cybersecurity pathway is this one, and it's really in a similar way indicating how digital manufacturing is impacted, but in alongside with what cybersecurity can provide. So with cybersecurity, we can support these different developments ongoing. And the final one is that we have to consider also when you are developing machinery or when you are buying pieces of materials, that you do that with a perspective of what's actually in there when it comes to cybersecurity. So we've developed this as a concept of security bill of materials, and it's very much like any device that you buy. You should take into consideration what is in there in terms of cybersecurity. Ask your suppliers, but also you, when you are supplying these devices, make sure that you provide a good list of materials when it comes to cybersecurity. Give an indication of components, give an indication of the different software pieces, And this way, you will not only help yourselves, but also basically your customers and potentially also your system integrators that need to work on this. And then next one. So a couple of key takeaways. Here it's really to end up and to say together with what Vito has been saying. There's many different ways to approach this, but the better way is always to take it from a risk management approach, is to consider a holistic approach when going into cybersecurity. Don't look at it from a pure point perspective, because you'll always miss out on a couple of things. Do check which potential solutions that might be already available and put them in place. But consider also ongoing developments and regulatory frameworks, like the ones that we've indicated. Take into consideration what the machine directive is going to say. Consider security by design approaches, like the ones that we've suggested specifically for bill of materials. It's a shared responsibility, so you are responsible, but it's not only you, it's really a combination of different entities that have to be responsible. And with this, we'll talk about the DigiHub in a second, but I'll hand over to Steven. And thanks a lot, Vito, for your contributions as well.
Yep.
Okay, thanks Ulrich for giving me the floor now. So I will also share my screen. Just give me a second. Okay, so normally you should see my screen. So my name is Stef Kauffmann. I'm project leader at Flanders Make in the cluster of flexible assembly. So we are mainly busy with industrial IoT, smart manufacturing and all these kind of topics. And the topic of today is infrastructure for industrial IoT that we are using at Flanders Make, and more specifically on the security measurements or the measures that we took to make it more cyber secure. So what is I3OT? So as already mentioned a couple of times in the previous presentation, so we are now in the industry seeing a transformation towards Industry 4.0. And that forces actually the companies to make smarter and more digitalized manufacturings. And not only the industry, but also research companies like, for instance, Flanders Make needs to invest in this industrial IoT. Because we have to provide also smart and connected systems and solutions that by industrial partners can then be used and integrated in order to make their digital transformation towards Industry 4.0. And an I3OT platform in this case will enable this to make it happen. Just to give you a very high level idea of what this I3OT is looking like. So in Flanders Make, we do have different labs, and also these labs are at different locations, so they are not only on one location. And in these labs, we do have different equipment and machinery that consist also of sensors that provide data. And we really would like to use this data into research projects in order to make smart and connected systems. But of course, before we can use it in services and applications, we also have to make sure that we somewhere can centralize this data so that all researchers or the ones that are specifically need or do have need for this type of data can have access to it and make these kind of applications and services. And for that, we also need edge devices, services and gateways in order to make sure that the data that is produced in these labs can be transferred to cloud services and applications and the other way around. Just to give you an example of one of these labs that we have in Flanders Make is a joining and material lab. And in this lab, for instance, there we have a glue process, and a glue process exists of different kind of parameters, and there is one or more experts who can modify this process in a way that it's giving the necessary results in a specific research project. But we also have different kind of equipment that is equipped with sensors, and all these sensors generate data, and this data can of course also be used to make this process better. But for that we need to collect it in a cloud environment or somewhere in a centralized place. And then what you see on the left is of course that we do have other experts and algorithms and tools that can be used to look in this data and see if there are correlations in order to make this gluing process that we have to do on the left side of the slides to make it even better. To come back to the joining and material lab, so here you see a map overview of the lab. You see that there's some different equipment. So we do have robots, mixing units for the gluing. We do have tensile test benches, curing ovens. All this kind of equipment is located in the lab. And we have a flat network topology. So that means that every device actually sees each other and can talk to each other. However, there is only one gateway, so one edge device, if I can call it like that, that will collect this data and transfer it or forward it to the cloud. So that's also the only device that is exposed directly to the internet. But of course, this connectivity also comes with a risk because, of course, we are doing research not only within Flanders Make, but we do it with different partners. So that can be other research partners, but also commercial companies. And of course, we create IP in these kind of projects, and this IP is crucial, not only for us, but also for the companies, for the competitiveness. And that's very important. So we don't want that this data is, or that other people can have access to this data. Also for safety implications, we have to be aware that not only physical damage, of course, but we have to be aware that we are using experimental setups that can be different kind of things. So not only in the GM lab, but also we do have vehicles and drones and industrial equipment and other labs available. And these are not only a risk for the processes and the products that we are testing or modifying or generating, but also to people, because we would like to avoid that, for instance, a person is working next to a robot, but at a certain point that this robot is hacked and that is doing different kind of activities that the person who is standing next to it is not expecting and is getting hurt. Also denial of services, and as already mentioned by the other people in the presentations, so not only our OT network is at risk, but also our IT network. So if a device is hacked in the OT network, then it is also likely that the complete organization is at risk, because if they can also have access to the IT network, then there can be a malfunction of different kind of services in the complete company, and that's certainly something that we would like to avoid. So all these kind of risks also put some requirements on the I3OT platform that we are providing. So I will talk to that more specifically in the next slide. But for instance, there are different workspaces in the cloud. So we have to make sure that they are strictly separated by each other. So there can be access only by authorized equipment and users. And also not only for the cloud environment, but also for the things that are happening on the OT side. There we have to make sure that design, installation, usage, and maintenance are also things that are considered, because that is also part of the I3OT infrastructure, and we also have to make sure that it's cyber safe. Okay, so what is the approach that we are using in the infrastructure? So on the left side, you see that we have the on-premise network. So for instance, this can be a lab or the GML lab that I was speaking about in some of the slides before. And then everything next to or right to the on-premise network, that are the things that are running in the cloud. So on the right side, we have the virtual network, or in this case, we speak about spokes. So spokes is actually a virtual network containing different kind of virtual machines or databases or whatever services that will be available and that are directly connected with one specific lab. And then between those two, there we have another virtual network, but that's more the I3OT hub, as we call it, which consists of firewalls and gateways, and that's also doing different kind of traffic filtering and security. Okay, so but then the question, okay, how do we make sure that this approach is cyber secure? So also as mentioned by Ulrich in one of his slides, so there are different kind of standards available. And for the cloud approach, we are using the ISO 27000 standard. I'm not going to talk about detail what the standard is saying, but just to give you a small list of examples. So for instance, how do we make it more secure? So the users and the labs that have access to the I3OT platform, they can only communicate via encrypted communications and via VPNs. There is only communication between the different spokes. So the spokes are the workspaces that we were talking about, so that are directly linked to the labs. So there's no communication between those two. There can be made some exceptions, but yeah, there are exceptions. And then there is a lot of filtering that is done on the central hub. So there are firewall rules that only allows connections, certain connections. There are also there's filtering on the spokes. So also there we doesn't allow to have access from different kind of external sources. And also at resource level, so only authorized users can have access to those spokes. And also these authorizations is strictly defined, and there are also rules that are configured and set up. So that brings me to this picture. Again, I'm not going to explain all the things because this is quite cloudy, but just to give you an idea that cybersecurity is not just something, for instance, that you say, okay, you're going to use one of these services in the cloud, and I just have to check mark one option that I say, okay, this is cyber secure. No, it's certainly more than that. So as you can see, there are a lot of things that needs to be configured. You need to think about things, how they make connections with each other. Is it allowed that they make these kind of connections? How do I make sure that these connections are secure? So that are all things that you have to think about. That's also a continuous process, so you can set up at once, but you still have to monitor things and make sure that also if you make modifications, that these do not have impact on things that you have already configured. So that's actually the message that I would like to bring with this picture. And then, of course, yeah, now we mainly have been talking about the cloud environment. And also the cloud environment, as we see. So, for instance, Microsoft Azure, they also provide kinds of networks of configuration sets and checklists that you can use in order to make your environment more cyber secure. But of course, we also have the OT network, as already mentioned by Vito. So in the OT network, we do have lab equipment that is provided by suppliers, but also these equipment, yeah, we are also depending on the suppliers. And for instance, if we have equipment where there are no security updates foreseen, or it's not supported anymore, then it's very likely that these are hackable. So also there, we have to make sure that not only the cloud environment is secure, but also the OT environment and all the different kind of equipments that we are using there. And for that, there's also, again, and indeed mentioned by Ulrich, so there is a standard, so the 62443, that we are now going to apply, or are still already busy with, in one of our labs, just also to make sure that on the OT and the IT side, we have a more secured environment. And that actually brings me to the end of my presentation. So in case there are still questions, please feel free to send me an email so to get in contact with each other. And then I would like now to give the word to Stef, who is going to talk about the support measures that are foreseen in Flanders.
Thank you, Steven. I'm gonna pass the floor to Ulrich first.
Yes, and indeed, I just quickly took over again, Stef. Yeah, I think it's an interesting project in any case, Steven, so I'll love to see more of it. And if you need more cybersecurity guidance, don't hesitate to contact us on this one as well. So a couple of words on how can we take this also to the next practical level for each and every one of you that's considering your digitization strategy. However, the next two talks by me and by Stef will be much more oriented towards SMEs, so small and medium-sized companies in Flanders, but it doesn't therefore mean that others cannot consider it as well. So the first thing that I would like to talk about is the plan and the activities that we have in the part of DigiHub, which is basically a program sponsored by the Flemish region through VLAIO and VLAIO, and where in the different provinces, wherever you are based in Flanders, we can actually get Flanders region to support you in your digitization strategy. And they will fund a specific project in the first level within the digitization hub, within the DigiHub, in this case, up to 70%. So this specific concept has been around since a couple of months now. For Flanders Brabant, in this case, specifically, we do this from LSEC side together with Flanders Make and a couple of other partners. And we'll have basically a press conference on this next week. But you can actually go to the DigiHub website from VOCA and apply for this directly. And then from this on, if you've gone through that first investigation trajectory, what it is that we'll be doing in that space.
Ulrich, we zijn je geluid kwijt.
Okay, I'm still here though, but I'm handing over to Stef in any case.
All right, thank you, Ulrich. I'll reshare my screen to very quickly introduce you to the Cybersecurity Verbetertrajecten, which is an initiative from VLAIO, in which the Flemish government actually subsidizes small to medium-sized enterprises to work on the cybersecurity maturity level of the organization. And in this initiative, VLAIO selected 9 partners, of which PwC is one, that each proposed their own unique work packages based on what they believed would help or benefit the small to medium-sized enterprises the most. Every partner at least proposed one fundamental package, which depending on the partner, has been complemented by 2 optional packages from a maximum. The optional packages are very specific. In our case, for example, it's around cloud security and secure software development. For the other selected partners, it can be something entirely different, more related to operational technology or an extension of the basic package, penetration testing, whatever the partner in question selected. But the fundamental package is something that is more shared across all the selected partners, and it's really aimed at bringing your organization to, let's say, a basic security maturity level. So it always consists of an assessment phase, creating an action plan, and actually assisting you as an organization in the implementation of the action plan. And the implementation support accounts for at least 50% of the entire project. So the intention there is to make a thorough assessment of where you are today, and then also help you as a cybersecurity consultant, advisor, in the implementation of the controls that we would recommend. So the only thing is the packages, although we offer them to all organizations, you need to qualify as an SME, a small to medium-sized enterprise, to really benefit from the subsidies, which are 45% of the total project cost. So there are a couple of formal requirements. I'm going to skip them in the interest of time. We have 3 packages. The cyber readiness package is a very broad package to tackle all the different cybersecurity aspects that exist. Within the SysTop 20, which is a very pragmatic framework that we prefer to use. We complement it with security testing, pen testing, vulnerability scans and everything to really come up with an action plan and then finally assist you with the implementation thereof. And then if you are using the cloud infrastructure as a service or platform as a service from AWS or Azure, There we can also assist you with analyzing if it's set up secure, if you're utilizing the licenses to the best extent possible, and yeah, further refine the configuration of the cloud environment. And if you're developing software in-house, also there we have a specialized team that will analyze whether the development itself is secure, if the release to production is secure, if there's proper segregation between the different environments, and all the various kind of things that you need to take into consideration when developing software securely. So these are our 3 packages. The 8 other providers, they have their own. There's more information at the bottom of this slide. There are 2 links. One is from PwC, which explains in more detail the packages that I just explained. And the second one is from VLAIO, where you will find all the information related to the initiative and also a description of what the other 8 suppliers offer within this contract. So in the interest of time, if you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. But having this said, I think it's time to open the floor for questions.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing your insights, Vito, Stef, Ulrich, and Steven. And thanks to all the participants for being here with us today. I hope this was very helpful to you to take the next steps in the cybersecurity measures for your company. We still have some time left for some questions. And there's one little thing I wanted to say. At the beginning of September, we will be very happy to welcome you back for our first offline events at Flanders Make in Leuven, and you will be receiving an invitation for that very soon. So we are looking forward to see you back in real life to have a talk together offline. But now it's time for some questions, if there are any.
Will the event be also about cybersecurity, Linda?
No. No, not at all. Yes, I don't want to go into the events now because we have some time left for questions about cybersecurity now. I just wanted to announce the events.
I don't think there are questions, Linda.
No, thank you very much for being here with us today. We will be sharing the presentations by email afterwards, of course, and we are looking forward to welcome you back in September then, or for one of our online events during the summer. Thank you very much, and looking forward to see you back again.